Hello, and welcome back to Software Testing Book Summaries, specifically Chapter 11, Lean Software Testing. Now, here at Excelon Development, we did a fair bit of integration of Lean uh, 5-10 years ago into our work process. And at one point, we thought about doing a Lean software testing book, but I'm going to tell you specifically how this fits in as a strategy. Let's start off with how we mostly do software delivery. Let's imagine for a minute that our work could be broken down into deliverables where you actually delivered a meaningful thing to a customer, or a meaningful in testing that might be this piece of software is tested, right? The customer is a programmer or an internal manager, doesn't matter, but a meaningful piece of work. And that those tasks break down into a rough bell curve. So you can predict when you're going to be done because you know the number of things and you can figure out. Even in testing where you have failure back, you can look at the number of the recidivism rate, the amount of things that come with the backwash, and you can calculate, given this percentage of backwash, we're gonna be done here. Most of the focus on software delivery is on finishing the most number of things every 2 weeks or every week or every sprint or every iteration or whatever you call it. That's velocity. There's a lot to Lean. There's a lot of different concepts. It's been adapted from automotive. One key one is, what if we changed our thinking and instead of trying to get as much done as possible, which is kind of an outcome measure, we try to get every piece done as quickly as possible. Now that is going to encourage us to have smaller pieces, but you might find that it's a little bit like the old story of putting the rocks in the bucket and then the small rocks in the bucket and then the sand in the bucket and the water in the bucket, that you can only fit a couple of big rocks, but you can fit the whole thing up with water if they're small enough. In other words, having small discrete pieces of work actually tends to improve and optimize our process. One of the ways it does that is through eliminating waiting, because the pieces get so small that I can be entirely responsible for all of it myself. And I don't have to send a ticket in and wait for someone to do a thing to come back to me so that I can change it, I can approve it, move it forward. So just one thing I want to look at today with that in mind. There's so much to it, right? So we talk about the 7 wastes and eliminating delays, like waiting, like doing more than is expected, like transportation waste where we have to get up and stand and go to a meeting, or mobility waste where we have to go log into a bunch of systems and create a bunch of files and transfer them all over to click the thing to make sure the thing worked. So there are tools to look at all the things we can do to tighten that up. But the one I want to look at today is continuous integration and continuous delivery. And I'll tell you why. Over the past just couple of years, more recently, we've been working with these continuous delivery shops, and that's great. But the implementation of that tends to be like, the first time I went to a continuous delivery shop, it was Etsy, and they would deploy something like, it was 81 changes by the time I got there at 11 o'clock in the morning. And they probably had something like 40 devs. So on average, a dev is probably shipping something twice a day. Really small, independent, isolated code changes. But that's fantastic, right? That's fantastic. And you could argue with me about the math. Maybe it should be, let's say, 4 times a day. But that's really great. When were those changes initialized? So when I was at Etsy, I had the real impression they were in it. Make the change request today, see it go live today, go watch the video screens, make sure that I didn't introduce any 500 errors, do some testing in production, go on to the next thing. Well, when I talk to continuous delivery shops today, it's much more like, do my code commit? Maybe we don't have a human exploration testing process, but then wait for a code review. Get the code review, wait for a merge. Get the merge, wait for it to go to a staging server. It sits on staging for 3 days, wait for it to go to production, right? So what's the delay in that system? Realistically, 7, 8, business days, so it spans 2 weeks, or maybe 3. That's just how long things take. So if you're a developer, what's going to happen, so there's going to be people involved in testing at various pieces of it. We're now testing software at different points in time. We're testing different versions of the software. There's a lot of this sort of work in progress. And if you're a programmer and you're really good, you get that one done, you go work on the next one. You get that one done, you go work on the next one. You get that one done, you go work. Now it's time for the first one to go to production, which means you're managing 4 workflows at the same time. And that's going to bring your throughput down. There's a diagram in the book. Let's see if I can find it, where we actually do the math on the value of automation, and we do the math on the impact of multitasking on throughput. So we already know this continuous delivery pipeline slows things down, but it turns out the multitasking is going to slow it down more. So now it's this thing which you could do in 2 hours if you were the only person responsible, had all the authority, and could just push the button. It's taken 3-4 weeks. That's going to slow the whole organization down. And the world is going to look very different if you can look more like Etsy and less like old school data processing company Inc. So they're doing continuous integration. They call it continuous delivery. There's a lot of room for improvement. What's your room for improvement? Start measuring it. How do you figure out how to measure it? You look at cycle time and lead time as defined. Like, it's all over you can Google it right today. You don't need the book. But I hope you'll consider it for a lot of detail about how to apply these things for software testing. Tomorrow we got a great show. We're really looking forward to it. Got a couple. Michael Larson's going to be here. Percy's going to be here. I hope you're watching. I hope you're following along. Hope you find value in this. If not, well, you're probably not watching. So thanks. See you later. Bye.